Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Saturday, November 3rd, 2018. This is episode 1537. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Grammarly, the communication tool that helps improve your writing for every occasion. Start writing more confidently for work, school, even on the go. It's a great way to double-check your important papers, documents, and even avoid future typos. Get 20% off Grammarly Premium today at Grammarly.com/TechGuy. And by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. Introducing Rate Shield Approval. If you're in the market to buy a home, Rate Shield Approval locks up your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. It's a real game changer. Learn more and get started at rocketmortgage.com/TechGuy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography. We talk smartphones, we talk smartwatches, we talk augmented reality and all that jazz at 8888 Ask Leo. If you want to join me, I'd love to hear from you. 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you could still reach us. You just have to call me via Skype or something like that. You know, one of those programs, voice over the internet programs. 888-827-5536. Did anything happen this week? There were a lot of quarterly results. I don't really care about quarterly results that much, but there were a lot of quarterly results. I guess that means, we get to know how companies are doing. I feel like it's more for the stock market. Although Apple did a funny thing. They said, this is the last time we're going to tell you how many iPhones, iPads, Apple Watches, Macintoshes we sold. You don't need to know that anymore. Somebody's got to explain this to me. Anybody from the Security and Exchange Commission listening? So these quarterly reports that these companies do, they're publicly held companies. They're supposedly, the idea is they report to the shareholders information about how the company's faring that would help the shareholders make an intelligent investment decision, right? If you own stock in Apple, you have kind of an interest in how Apple's doing, how Apple's products are selling, and if you're thinking about buying Apple stock, that's also germane. Apple said, that's no longer important. That no longer matters how many products we're selling. Okay, I'll take your word for it. It does mean that investors now just have to guess. And there's already, Microsoft's done this for a while, and there's already a lot of, reading of the tea leaves to try to figure out, well, how are they doing? Chief Financial Officer of Apple, Luca Maestri, said, the number of units sold in a quarter is not representative of the underlying state of business. What? What? Maybe I just have a vague understanding of how business works, but it strikes me that how well the business is doing is directly tied to the number of units sold. Or maybe Apple doesn't want anybody to know. In fact, the iPhone grew 0% units in this quarter. Now, there's always a little asterisk there. The iPhone XS and XS Max were only for sale for a couple of weeks in the quarter, and so it makes sense that sales would slow as people know there's a new iPhone coming, and so I wouldn't expect this quarter to have a big growth in iPhone sales. Apple also says, we're relying on services for a lot of revenue. So, that's as important. And true, services, $10 billion business a year, that's not bad. Is it a year? No, it's a quarter, $10 billion a quarter. It's hard. Apple, the numbers are so big that it's really kind of hard to figure out. I mean, that's a lot of money. Although we just learned that a considerable amount of that money doesn't come from selling you or me services. It comes from selling Google a service. It's estimated that Google will pay Apple $12 billion in 2019 just to make sure that Safari continues to use the Google search engine. That's how valuable that is. You know, when you use on your iPhone, when you use Safari and you type in something in the search, it comes up a Google search, right? There's not many choices. It could come up a Bing search. That's about it. It'd be funny if Apple started using a Chinese search engine. That'd be kind of cool. Baidu or something. No, that's not going to happen. So it's Bing or Google or go home. I guess you could... DuckDuckGo is another one. It could be... But Google's, it's so valuable to Google's ad sales, which is their business, right? Those little ads that you see on not only on search but on websites, that they're paying, according to sources, $12 billion with a B dollars. That's a good business. Of course, Apple doesn't need to sell iPhones anymore. Just sell the search to Google. Crazy. Private messages from 81,000 hacked Facebook accounts are for sale. Does anybody still use Facebook? Oh, really? Almost 2 billion people, huh? Don't know why. This is important, I think. An important thing. I say this from time to time, but I hope everybody understands. If you have something you would like to keep private, do not use the internet for it. Do not put your messages on the internet. Do not put your pictures on the internet. Do not put your posts on the internet unless you want them to be public. Yes, Facebook kind of, implies that you can put stuff there that only friends can see or only this person or that person can see, but it's not true. It's not true. The hackers who apparently, I guess this is related to the fact that Facebook said 30 million Facebook accounts were hacked. The hackers say they have 120 million accounts. Facebook said, our security has not been compromised. The data has been obtained, probably, that's an important word, probably obtained, says Facebook, through malicious browser extensions. Oh, there's another thing to watch out for. Don't put malicious browser extensions on your browser because... Good news from the Florida Court of Appeals. I think good news for privacy, anyway. The court overturned a lower court decision that said that a suspect in a crime had to disclose the password of his smartphone. It's always been kind of thought that the password of your device, something in your mind, it's distinguished from your fingerprint. Police could take your fingerprint because it's not considered self-incriminating testimony. It's just your fingerprint or your hair. But you can't be compelled to release something in your mind that might incriminate you. That's the Fifth Amendment. You have the right against self-incrimination. And that's what the Florida Court of Appeals said. You do not have to, the act of, quote, an act of producing passcodes is not testimonial. Oh, this was the lower court said the act of producing the passcodes is not testimonial because the existence of the passcode is a foregone conclusion. The lower court said, well, because the police know you know the passcode, they can ask for it. The appeals court said, no. This is important because if you use a fingerprint to unlock your phone, you can be compelled to unlock your phone. If you use Face ID to unlock your phone, you can be compelled to unlock your phone. And lately, we've seen search warrants include specific wording saying that the police will use Face ID and fingerprints to unlock phones. But if you have a passcode, even if it's just 4 or 6 digits, the court says you cannot, even if the government could show it knows the defendants, knows the code, it cannot force you to unlock it. And that's because there's so much on your phone that's beyond the scope of that particular investigation. Your whole life now, right, is on the phone. And that's what the fight is over. That's why the fight on phone encryption and so forth. Of course, we want bad guys to go to jail. But we also want the innocent to be protected. That's what the Constitution is all about. Protect you against unlawful search and seizure. Protect you against incriminating yourself. And that's what the court has ruled. And I think that's a good thing because we store everything in here. You know, I just said, if you put it on the internet, you should consider it public. At least for now, what you put on your phone, I think you should be able to consider private. At least for now. And I'll keep you posted if that changes. We're going to go to the phones in just a second. Kim Schaffer's there busily answering them. Let's get your calls. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Somebody's saying Canadian Customs forced me to divulge my password. That may be different. When you're going across a border, you don't have the same kinds of protections. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Kim Schaffer, the phone angel. Hello, Kim.
Oh,
how do you like that?
I like that.
We'll angel.
Go with that.
Phone angel.
It's only taken 5 years, but we finally got a name. We've got a name.
Phone angel.
An angel.
She answers the phones like an angel, sent from heaven to put you on the radio today.
Usually.
Yeah, well, you can say no to people who sound intoxicated. That's okay.
Or just have a really hard time getting their question out.
Or are confused.
Yeah, exactly.
Or want, health advice. I don't think I'd do that either.
Yeah. When you weren't here, when Rich DeBartolo was here.
Well, see, he knows everything, so it's okay for Rich to answer those.
I got a really strange call, and he didn't take it, but it was about where to place bookshelves, so the electromagnetic, and I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah, no.
I don't think that really falls within our...
The magnets in the speakers are okay. They're not going to hurt you. They're not going to hurt you. Although I did have a device I talked about before from Serta called a sleep tracker. That's little paddles you place under your mattress, right at your pillow, one for each side of the bed that track your sleep. And I like this thing. It was like $60. And then I talked to somebody who said, well, you know how they're telling your heart rate and your sleeping and all this? They're creating a massive electromagnetic field around your head.
Yeah.
And I thought,
so good.
I don't need to know how I'm sleeping that well. I have a pretty good idea.
I wonder about the watches. Like, are we all going to end up with tumors on our arms?
Well, in 20 years, we'll know. Yep.
Yeah.
The reason I don't worry about cell phones is there's a slight decline in the rate of brain cancer over the last 20 years.
Because nobody actually is on the phone. They're just texting.
Yeah, who uses a cell phone
it's not a phone.
for phone calls?
It's not.
You don't see, I'll be honest, you don't see people with their cell phone to the ear that much.
I might take a call a week.
Mostly that's in their hand and they're looking down at it while they walk into an intersection, which is frankly much more dangerous.
That is true.
Much more immediate.
You're playing Pokemon and you're trying to get that Pikachu in your
It's a very big event going on right now and I'm missing it.
What's that?
Well, it's the big Gengar event. There's massive shiny Gengar raids going on all over. Okay. You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Obviously, you're not a Pokemon Go player.
Not to that extreme.
Yeah, they do all their weekend events during my show, and I'm taking this personally.
You think it's a personal vendetta against you?
Yeah, they don't want me to
They don't want you playing anymore?
Yep. So who should I talk to on the phone here?
I think Gary in Walla Walla, Washington, because I just wanted to say Walla Walla, Washington. And that's why. That's really the only reason.
That's all you need, Kim. Thank you, Kim.
If your town has a really cool name, you'll probably get on the air.
We get them, don't we? We get some wild names, Hello, Gary. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi. I wanted to buy a PC desktop that would be good for video editing.
Okay.
And I'm willing to spend some bucks on this thing because I don't want to, to be.
The thing to understand is that any PC can do video editing. What you're paying for when you spend some bucks on it is your time. How much time you have to wait for time-consuming things like rendering. Rendering means taking what you told it to do and turning it into the video.
Right.
Like the transitions or outputting it in a file format that you want. Those things on a slower computer are going to take longer. The other thing that a speedy computer makes a difference is just in your comfort and convenience of operating it. You don't want to drag a clip to the timeline and have to wait 5 seconds for it. But ultimately, all comes really down to performance comes down to your time and speediness. So if you're patient, you're not in a hurry, any old computer will do. And if you're in a hurry, so for instance, for our editors, we buy big Dell Precision workstations with Xeon processors and loads of RAM and super fast SSDs, not because I'm sympathetic to their plight, but because I want to get the show out before the end of the week.
Yeah.
Right. So we do buy very heavy duty machines for this. The thing, what video editing program are you thinking of using?
I haven't figured that out yet. What I've got is a lot of old home videos that I'd like to convert to digital and chop them up and put in some title cards, that type of thing.
So honestly, any Mac which comes with its iMovie program is going to be more than adequate to do that. You're going to have to get some video capture hardware, either Mac or PC, some video capture hardware. But a laptop even would be adequate to do this. And Apple, one of the reasons I mentioned Mac is Apple really optimizes its iMovie for its hardware. So one of the new, and we'll talk about the Apple event a little later, but one of the new MacBook Airs, even as slow as they are, relatively slow as they are, would be fine. If you really want high speed, the MacBook Pro, I bought the top of the line i9 based MacBook Pro because I'm silly and I don't like to wait. And that is a lot faster. It's noticeably faster with photo editing, which I do a lot of. And it would certainly be, for the same reasons, faster with video editing. On the PC side, is it Windows or Mac you want to use?
Well, I've been using Windows all.
Okay, so we keep using Windows. Nothing wrong with that. Windows doesn't come. It used to come with Windows Movie Maker. They don't ship a free program anymore. But you probably want, unless you're doing high end. We use here Adobe's Premiere, very pricey program that you don't buy, you rent. But I would suggest Adobe Premiere Elements, which you can buy. It's under $100. It'll even burn it out to a DVD if that's what you want to do. It's pretty much the same program. That's what Adobe does. They take their programs like Photoshop and Premiere, and they make kind of slightly stripped down versions called Elements that are affordable and easily used for people who aren't professionals. So I would say any Windows PC, you want enough memory, RAM, so I'd say 16 gigabytes of RAM.
Okay.
And you want a solid-state drive, although most computers these days are sold with solid-state drives because those are much faster reading and writing data, and that's one of the things a video editor does a lot of. Processor's not as important. An i5 would be fine. And look at the single-core performance. Nowadays, because Intel couldn't get faster in terms of clock speeds, they've added multiple processors in the same chip. So they have single, dual, quad. But if your program doesn't take advantage of it, and most of the time it won't, it's the single core clock speed that matters the most. So don't get a 1.6 gigahertz i5. Get a 2.5 gigahertz or 3 gigahertz i5. That'll make a difference in overall speed. So lots of RAM, relatively, fast hard drive, and a decently fast processor, and you're good to go. Whether you want a GPU or not, it's going to depend on... So all PCs these days have a graphics... Intel builds graphics processing into its chips, but the built-in isn't super fast. And whether you need a GPU or not depends on the program you're using. Mm-hmm. And let me look it up and see if Premiere Elements... the higher-end editors will use a GPU for things like rendering. Let me see. GPU acceleration. Okay, Premiere Elements does not support GPU acceleration, according to my quick Google search. Premiere does, but it looks like Premiere Elements does not. And that's exactly the kind of thing they would do so that you can get it for $80 instead of $800, right? They don't.
Yeah.
So then that means you don't need to get a discrete graphics processing unit, which is a big expense, like an NVIDIA or a Radeon card.
Right. I could get a bigger solid state driver.
Yeah. You get a bigger monitor. A big monitor. if you're getting the desktop, getting one of those wide monitors will be great because, one of the things video editors often do is have multiple monitors because they want to see the video in its entirety in one monitor and controls on another. And so that really speeds up their workflow. If you get one of the bigger monitors, you can at least see the video at a decent size. So all of those things make a difference.
Okay. And on the memory speed, I notice, you see some of them computers, they have a...
Don't worry about that.
Don't worry too much.
Yeah, okay. That's dependent on the Intel processor that they use.
Okay.
And some Intel processors can only use DDR3, some can use DDR4. But honestly, you're not going to see a big... what you see on all of this stuff is a small percentage improvement for a big percentage increase in price. So it's just really kind of dependent on, again, how impatient you are and how much money you have to burn.
Yeah.
But honestly, if a 3% increase in performance, you're not even going to notice.
Right.
So I wouldn't worry. I really wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
The biggest difference will make is a fast SSD, and as somebody in the chat room is pointing out, if you can get one that's a PC on the PCI Express bus, in other words, an NVMe SSD, that will make the biggest difference of all, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because a lot of the video editing speed is disk bound, I/O bound, as they say.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Hey, you're very welcome. Have fun. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Scott.
Leo, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thanks.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, somebody last week in the chat room asked the perennial question, what's the difference between OLED and QLED?
Oh, good.
So we can do that.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that because I feel like Samsung is
muddying the waters.
Not suckering people, but muddying the waters, yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Precisely. My new motto is never buy a DVD again. Scott, that's Scott Wilkinson. I like to make him laugh. He's so cute. Scott Wilkinson, the Santa Claus of home theater geeks.
My time is coming up, too.
It is. Your time is coming. He bears gifts all the time. He joins us each week to talk about AV, which is, of course, not just your big screen TV, but also your surround sound and all of that. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Leo. How you doing?
Always a pleasure.
Always glad to be here.
Somebody asked last week, and I think it would be good for us to talk about QLED, which is Samsung TVs are QLED. They have some very nice QLED TVs, and OLED. And I think the only difference between a Q and an O is just that little tail there, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. And it is confusing, I have to tell you.
They're completely different technologies, though.
They are completely different technologies. OLED, OLED, stands for Organic Light-Emitting Diode, and that is the technology by which the TV makes its picture. And the organic, by the way, isn't because, it's green and grass-fed or anything like that. It's based on organic chemistry. You remember in high school or college, you might have taken organic chemistry and inorganic chemistry?
Yes. Organic has carbon in it.
That's right. That's it. That's what organic LED, OLED, that's how it makes its light.
It's a carbon-based life form like us. Little Star Trek mention in there.
Exactly. Very good. Now, QLED, the Q in QLED stands for quantum dots.
Well, that's not anything like organic.
No, in fact, they are typically inorganic.
And in fact, really, QLED is just an LCD.
That's correct.
Let's be honest.
And let's be honest, it's an LCD TV like every other LCD TV on the market with one exception, and that is that the light source behind the LCD panel is using quantum dots as in addition to LEDs, light-emitting diodes. These are the little bright things that you can buy and see everywhere, and flashlights and everything. Basically, they have LEDs as the light source.
They're the backlight. So LCD screens, people need to understand the LCD is a liquid crystal shutter that opens and closes very rapidly to let light through.
Yep.
And
more
so it needs,
or less light through.
Or less. And it needs a backlighting source.
Correct.
Used to be fluorescent lights. Those weren't very good. We now
tiny,
use
little fluorescent tubes like in office lights.
Yeah. We now use
now
LEDs.
They use LED. Right,
so what is a quantum dot? Is that still an LED or is it something else?
No, it's something else. It's a microscope. We're talking about nanomaterials here. It's a microscopic sphere of a particular semiconductor. I forget exactly which semiconductor, but they're typically in the 2 to 5 nanometers in diameter range. So they're very, very tiny. Now, when a quantum dot receives a photon from an LED or any light source, and particularly a blue photon, it absorbs it, thinks about it for a second, and then spits out a red or a green photon.
Well, that's amazing.
It is amazing. And so you put a
So it's basically a filter.
It's what's called a color converter.
Uh-huh.
So blue comes in and red or green comes out. And whether or not it's red or green depends upon the size of the quantum dot.
It's magic.
So a certain size of quantum dot will absorb a blue photon and spit out a green photon. And a different size will absorb a blue photon and spit out a red photon. So you put a bunch of these, billions of them, you embed them in a film, and you put blue LEDs behind them, and you irradiate them with blue light. Many of them will absorb that blue light and send out red or green. Now, some of the blue light actually makes it through the film without getting absorbed. And so you end up with blue light, red light, and green light. And what are those three colors together combined to make?
Any color in the rainbow.
Well, white, actually.
Oh. Altogether. But if you vary them in different shades, you can get different colors.
Yes, and that's exactly how LCD TVs work.
Okay, because you have a shutter, but the shutter doesn't do any coloration. It just turns a pixel on or off.
And here's the really weird thing, is you have quantum dots, red and green, and blue LEDs. They combine to make white. They go through these LCD shutters.
Yeah.
And then they go through color filters.
Oh, later. So you're just using the quantum dots to make white.
Correct. Correct.
Is it a better white than just an LED?
It is. It is.
How?
It is. In many ways, it is. Because the spectrum of red, green, and blue, the red, green, and blue parts of the spectrum are very peaky. They're very narrow, and they can be very wide. So you can get a much wider color gamut or range of colors than you can from a white LED.
I thought white was white. It's not.
Yes. It's not. It's not. It
so
depends.
It's a better white.
It is. It is. Now, white from the sun, for example,
is
white
yellow.
light.
Yeah.
It's kind of yellowish.
Yeah.
But it's got a very broad spectrum.
Okay. So there's the temperature, which we talk about, which can be blue or yellow. That's
color temperature.
Color temperature. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. That's why we say it's yellow. But then there's how much of the spectrum is available in that light.
Correct.
Oh,
correct.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
And the wider the spectrum that you can reproduce, the more range of colors you can.
I thought white was just every color all smushed together, but it's not.
It can be made in many different ways. That's the really because.
And we're not talking about the white when your wife says, "Oh, I want ivory white," versus "I want clamshell white."
Right.
We're talking about pure white.
Right, of a very specific, and in fact, white can have colors, as you have said, and the color that you want a TV to produce, the color of white, has a very specific name. It's a technical name called D65.
Oh,
which has it really is a very neutral white, and that's what you want because that's what the content creators used. That was the color of white they used in their monitor when they were making the content.
That's what really matters, is to reproduce the colors that the person who made the content wanted. Accurately.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so at these QLED
D65,
TVs,
by the way, is the average midday light in Western Europe.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that I didn't know.
I didn't either. It's 6,500 degrees Kelvin.
Kelvin. Yeah.
Kelvin.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's strange.
Exactly.
Okay, so
QLED then is this very complicated LEDs behind LCD panels using quantum dots and so on and so forth. It's a specific name that Samsung uses for its quantum dot based LED illuminated
so maybe
LCD
they're not
TVs.
Trying to confuse people. It's just that QLED is an LCD technology, which is a completely different way of creating a picture than an OLED, which is a direct emission pixel. Each pixel emits a color.
Exactly, because and in that sense, the LCD is a transmissive technology. Light has to pass through something, whereas OLED is an emissive technology. Light is emitted directly from the screen.
Okay.
And it has
they just have different they have different characteristics.
Yeah. LCDs are brighter.
QLED's cheaper. LCDs are cheaper.
Generally speaking, yes. However, they don't have as wide a viewing angle.
That's what some people say, but that has nothing to do with the Q in the QLED. That just is because it's an LCD screen versus an OLED screen.
Yep, okay. Exactly right. Exactly.
Scott, you've made it as usual clear as mud, and I thank you. You confuse me more. No, I am. But it's important to understand there is a distinction.
It is
between OLED and QLED. They're completely different ways of making a picture.
Completely. Yep.
Home Theater Geek, Scott Wilkinson. Thank you, Scott. We'll see you next week. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls and the Apple event right after this. Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. I didn't realize that's what I thought. Quantum dots. I thought this was a better yellow.
No,
it's not.
No, it's not.
It's a better white.
It's a better white because of combining the quantum dot red and green with the LED blue.
I'm confused because at one point they brought on. The guy says, "Yeah, whoa." What was his?
Oh no, yeah, that
Mr. Sulu.
George Takei.
George Takei. Oh my! And it was like a better yellow, but that was a different technology.
That was a different. That was in fact taking an LCD TV, and each pixel has a red, green, and a blue subpixel. Those are those little color filters. They added a yellow subpixel to each complete pixel. So it was red, green, blue, yellow, RGBY.
Okay. They don't do that anymore.
They don't do that anymore. That didn't work very well.
It's so funny because really history is littered with failed television technologies.
Indeed. Yes.
But you say QLED does make a difference. These and it's Samsung only, right?
Samsung only.
But does anybody else do quantum dots?
Yes, indeed. Many other people do. For example, Vizio PQ series, which is the P series using quantum dots instead of white LEDs. So there are companies. I think Sony might have gotten on board.
They're not proprietary. They're
no. Quantum dots are not proprietary.
Are they hard to make? It sounds like they might be.
Well, there are a number of companies. Nanosys comes to mind. They're in the Bay Area, and they've been. It's not that hard, apparently. The technology has rolled along quite a bit in the last 5 or 10 years.
This is this picture. It looks like one of those bird berries you see on a bush, but actually that's a quantum dot.
That's a quantum dot
through an scanning electron microscope. They're so small.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
It's really quite amazing, and we're eventually we're going to see televisions in which the quantum dots, instead of being stimulated by blue photons from an LED, they will be electrically stimulated and self-emit. At which point QLED will be very indistinguishable from OLED because they're both going to be self-emissive displays. Now that's not for 5 or 10 years.
Are all quantum dot TVs FALD or no?
No.
Full array local dimming. So you could put quantum dots on the edge. You don't have to put them behind every pixel.
And in fact, many Samsung QLEDs do.
Oh, that would make more of a difference, wouldn't it, in the quality of the picture than the Q?
No, I don't think so. Okay. Oh, well, yes. The difference between
FALD is a lot better.
A lot better.
Yeah.
I always recommend FALD. Always.
Yeah.
A lot better. Now, and if you put quantum dots in any of them, either way, you're going to get a wider color gamut.
Better white. Okay.
Better white and wider range of colors, which is important now with high dynamic range, which also includes wider color gamut.
Yeah.
So it's
is some of it the brightness of the various spectral ranges?
Yes.
So better may be wider, but it also may just be more higher quality, a more even.
Well, yes, that's
spectral
true.
range.
And quantum dots can get brighter. In fact, the new Vizio PQ, the regular P series gets to a peak brightness of about 1,000 nits. Just, that's just some number. The PQ doubles that.
So can you stick around for the top of the hour?
Happy to.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. This is good. I wish we could have gotten that second part in, but time limits.
Time limits
us all, except me. On my podcast. I just go on and on.
Just go on and on.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, I'll be happy to stay at the top.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, Apple had a big event on Tuesday and announced a whole bunch of stuff, including 2 new Macintosh computers, 2 new iPads, and I'll be talking a little bit about that. It was a very expensive Tuesday for me because I had to buy all of them. Oh boy. But they're all available now in the Apple Store, and for pickup on next Wednesday, November 7th, or delivery if you hurry. I think some of them you can still get for delivery on Wednesday. If not, the stores will have some. We'll talk about those, and I'll have much more to say next week after I play with them a little bit. Back to the phones on line 1. Is it Larace? Larace from Santa Ynez, California. Am I saying that right, Larace?
Yes, Larace.
Hi, Larace.
Hi. I've got 2 questions, and I'm going to talk real fast so I can get them both out.
Okay.
Is it all right to use names? I mean, over the years, I've always...
Yeah, no. Sometimes okay. I've heard shows where people say, "Oh, don't name brand names." No, I like it. I want to hear all the names.
And before I do, I just want to squeeze in real quick. I was going through some old DVDs that I have, not DVDs, but VHSs, and I still have Call for Help and Screensavers saved on some of them.
Oh, I'm so touched.
Yeah. Okay.
Those are my old TV shows from back in the 90s.
Yes. Okay, I have a couple of websites that I do, and I was using IX Hosting Soul or whatever, and they went to Site 5. And Site 5, I got an invoice the other day, and I always pay 3 years at a time, and I got my invoice for 2018 through 2021, and great, I went to pay it, and went through PayPal, and little teeny letters, I noticed it said good for 2018 to 2020.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, of course, there's no phone support anymore. You got to do everything with chat. I mean, a live chat. So anyway, I wrote them and I says, well, hey, this said 2020, not 2021. And the girl says, well, you do have it for 3 years, but what it boils down to, they will not honor the 3 years. I can only get it for 2 years. But they still want the same amount that I had always been paying. So I said, okay, forget it. I'll just go, you've got your advertising for I don't know, there was one for $6.95 and $9.95. And they go, oh, well, that's not any good anymore. And I go, but it's still on your website. It's on the front.
Sounds like it's time to move, doesn't it?
Yeah. And he said, well, it's no good anymore. So anyway, I said, you know what? I'll pay by the month, which, they jack it up when you pay by the month. Sure. And I says, and then I'm leaving. But I don't know who to go to. I mean, I've only been with IX Hosting, and I've been Site 5. I looked on the Internet, and they're talking about Bluehost. I've heard about BraveNet. And who's really good? I have my own domain names and everything, so I'm taking them with them, because one time I was with Coffee Cup and put a domain name in with them, and they went and give it to me when I went to leave.
Always buy your own domain name,
so I've got my own domain name.
Make sure it's in your name, in other words.
Yeah, and I heard that, everything in a while is going to be, like SSL.
Yeah, it's easy to move. Web hosting is basically a commodity product. So what are you using on top of the web hosting as your content management system?
Well, I'm doing some of the stuff. I don't know what we're talking about. I do everything. I use HTML.
So you're doing it by hand and uploading it.
I do, and I do not want any free sites. I don't want any ads.
Okay. So, but slow down. We'll talk about that. But I want to talk about how you're doing this first. So you're using, what are you using? Some program like Dreamweaver or something to make the HTML?
No. Well, I have Coffee Cup HTML.
Oh, Coffee Cup. Yeah.
And then I send it through their FTP.
Okay. So that's a pretty old-fashioned way of doing things.
I know.
You may not want to change, and I can understand that, but most websites aren't done that way anymore.
Right.
And there's a good reason for it. In most cases, we want to decouple. We want to separate the content of the site, the text, the images, all the things that you're creating from the design of the site. We want to make them completely separate for a couple of reasons. One, it's a lot easier to post content if you don't have to put in bold tags every time you want a bold word, right? And on Coffee Cup will do that, but you have to select it and make it bold and all that stuff. Coffee Cup's doing most of the work for you. It's actually a pretty good HTML editor. It's just just old.
Actually, I kind of go in with blank and do it myself.
Oh my gosh, you're writing your own hand-coded HTML.
Yeah. It's real. I mean, my website. One of them is really simple. It's almost like a family website, and then I do a road committee here in our area.
The advantage of doing it this way is those sites are going to load really fast because all the browser's doing is downloading all your hand-coded HTML and rendering it. It's very fast, very easy.
Just copy and paste.
Yeah, but it's not easy for you by any means.
No.
And honestly, it's going to impede your ability to update these sites quickly because you have to do it by hand, basically.
Oh, yeah, no, I know sometimes.
So one thing I would look at, since you're going to be making this change anyway, is moving to what we call a content management system, which does this decoupling for you. You'll use a text editor, usually on the website, not even on your computer, which is nice because you can do it anywhere from anything, including your phone. And you'll put the content in. You'll type it just like a word processing document. You can still make bold and different typefaces and stuff, but it's still more like word processing. You'll put images in. You'll drag them around just like you would in your word processor, and then you'll upload it. And the content management system does the job of generating the page based on your design, which is independent from your content. And the other advantage of that, besides making it easier to create content, is you can change your design kind of at will because it's independent. So if you say one day, I want to look more modern, it's an easy thing to do. You can't do that with your Coffee Cup site. You'd have to go through it and edit it, the whole thing.
Exactly.
Be a pain. So decoupling is more modern. There are other advantages to it. There's some technical advantages. There are many disadvantages. It's a more complex system. It can be a little slower because the content management system itself is a program running on the server that your data is basically stored in a database that takes your data out of the database, merges it with the design, the CSS and the various design elements, including JavaScript. You can get much nicer design elements than by hand coding unless you're a proficient JavaScript coder, things like drop-down menus and stuff like that. Coffee Cup does that with plugins, but that's a fairly non-standard way to do that. In other words, you're really back in the call for help era.
Definitely.
You're back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Yeah, Coffee Cup's great. I love it. I hadn't heard that name in ages. But it's a very good. I'm surprised they still do it, but I'm glad to see that they do. I think that's great.
They have, newer programs.
It says, we've been helping people since 1996.
Yeah.
Wow,
right.
20 years, 22 years. So most people nowadays use sites like WordPress.com, Squarespace.com. These are sites that are content management systems, basically. They do the hosting, so they'll be your new host. You can easily move to them because you own the domain name, so it's like flipping a switch. But this would be a bit of a task because you have to take your existing content and put it into the new format. Now, having done that, the rest of your life will be much simpler going forward.
Well, can I put it in the old format until I get it switched over?
You mean just upload your FTP? Yeah, probably not. No.
Not as HTML, it wouldn't take everything. Download all my pictures.
But what you'll do is you'll go to your web page where it's been rendered.
Right.
And you'll copy it from there and paste it you'll have two web pages open, one for the WordPress content management system and one for your web page. You copy it from your web page and paste it into WordPress, and it will handle all that. And it's going to be fair. How many, are the sites huge?
No.
Then it won't take long, but it's it is a bit of starting over, I'll be honest, Larace, but it's moving into the modern times, and I think your life will be much easier. And these companies are so much more reliable than these little rinky-dink web hosting companies like
I mean, just to have somebody, for help, just to make the initial.
That's the other thing Squarespace and WordPress do so well. WordPress, we should mention as a sponsor, but that's what they do so well is they help you. They have templates. It's just much easier.
Okay.
So and it costs probably not more than the hosting you're already paying for, but they keep it updated. They keep it secure. That's a big issue. They're constantly maintaining it. They're probably more performant than IX hosting was. I think you'll get a much better result. So I would hang on the line. I'll give you some inside information. I would look at something like that. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. The other advantage these companies like this offer, and by the way, there will be no advertising on either Squarespace or WordPress.
Okay.
They're both paid sites.
Can I ask you one other question?
Sure.
Okay, well, I kind of missed that one, but I went out, but I can still take it back, and I bought a Lenovo, a Y520. Is that, a laptop? And I mostly for Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator and stuff. Is this a pretty good laptop for that?
Yeah, pretty good.
I know you said some of the Lenovo's to what?
No, this is a very nice one.
Okay.
It's a gaming laptop, but...
I know it. I figured it would be fast.
As a result, it's very high-end, yeah.
Great.
Hey, I think that would be the best thing. I would just go to WordPress.com. Look at their plans.
Yeah.
And then there's things if you wanted to add, e-commerce and stuff. It's just easier once you get it all moved over. Won't be easy moving.
Yeah, that... Site 5 just drove me crazy.
Oh, no.
I got to get away from them.
It's going to be a little bit of a pain initially in the long run.
They would have honored their letter.
No,
even when
but that's the problem.
Your letters you send me, and they won't do it. It's like we're done.
Yeah, these hosting companies, they're really dying out, and that's the real problem. That's why IX hosting sold. They were just too small, and it's not. They're dying out.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, I should mention our show today brought to you by Grammarly. Oh, I love Grammarly. Have you used Grammarly? Do you know Grammarly? So you probably know about spell checkers. But wouldn't it be nice if, in addition to checking your spelling, you could improve your writing, double-check important papers and documents, avoid future typos? Grammarly, GRAMMARLY.com/TechGuide. They have a free version, so you can start right now. It's completely cross-platform. I put the Grammarly plugin on all my browsers. There's desktop versions. There's mobile versions. Yes, I can use it on my iPad. Grammarly Premium allows users to track their writing skills and progress over time. It's a really... I feel like my grammar is excellent. I don't make mistakes. And yet, every time with Grammarly, it just catches not just typos, but little glitches where you can make it clearer, right? So it's spelling and grammar, but it also helps with advanced punctuation, structure, style within context, vocabulary suggestions, conciseness, readability for different occasions. The other thing, sometimes maybe in an email I'm a little abrupt, and Grammarly would say, well, I love this. You could be a little more polite. It's great. It's not judgmental. It's just like, this was a little abrupt. You want to add, please? Okay, I do. Then you don't have to type it. You press a button, it does it. 85% of surveyed premium users identify themselves as better writers because of Grammarly. You can try it now, free, or get 20% off Grammarly Premium. Grammarly.com/TechGuy. Grammarly, spelled grammar right, GRAMMARLY.com/TechGuy. I frankly don't use a computer now without having Grammarly installed. You should too. It's awesome. 20% off Grammarly Premium when you go to Grammarly.com/TechGuy. We're talking with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, professional writers, both of whom use Grammarly all the time. Grammarly.com/TechGuy. Thank you, Scott, for your patience. I am now handing the microphone over to the lovely and talented Scott Wilkinson.
Why, thank you so very much.
You're very, very welcome.
Now you're going to put the number in there, right?
I am. I have to move it over.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because that's very helpful to me.
Oh, I know you need it. You have 415 seconds.
Woo.
Enjoy.
Thank you. I love my 415 seconds. So let's see. I think I got a couple of interesting questions here. Oh, Mike B. Asked if I agreed that the best time to get a new TV is just before the Super Bowl. And I said, yes, that is a really good time to get a new TV, partly because they want to sell TVs for the Super Bowl, but also the Super Bowl is in February, isn't it? January or February. So at CES, the manufacturers have all announced next year's or this year's, by the time the Super Bowl comes around, their TVs, their next round of TVs. And so they're also wanting to get rid of last year's inventory. So, you know, in that sense, you're buying at the end of the product life cycle, not the beginning, but you're getting it for less probably. And I have no trouble whatsoever buying TVs, buying products at the end of their life cycle in order to save money. You know, there are an awful lot of people who get stuck, frozen. They can't, you know, they say, oh, well, the next, I should buy this one. I need a TV. I'm going to buy this year's TV. But next year it's going to have HDMI 2.1. Or next year it's going to have emissive quantum dots or whatever. I say you get what you need when you need it. And if that's the end of the life cycle, then so be it. Somebody else here in the chat room. Mike B again. His 8-year-old Vizio recently developed some dead pixels, and so it's time to buy a new TV. Well, yes, it is. Now, you might wonder, well, hey, 8 years? I've had my TV for 20 years or 25 years, and it used to be that way. I remember, you know, when I was a kid and my grandparents had one of these console TVs, and it lasted, you know, as long as I can remember almost, you know. So TVs typically don't last as long now as they used to. They develop problems. Is that planned obsolescence? Is that, you know, nefariousness from the manufacturers? I don't know. I don't think so, really. But you know, the technology of TVs has become more complicated and probably therefore more easily prone to faults and failures. So, you know, 8 years is actually not bad, really. So yeah, it's time to get a new TV. And if you can wait till the Super Bowl, then great. You wait till the Super Bowl. But I wouldn't be wanting to watch a TV with a straight line of vertical dead pixels. That would drive me nuts. As Swamp Rat says, for me, the best time to buy a new TV is when my current one stops working. Well, Mike B's TV hasn't stopped working, but it's certainly not looking its best by any means. Let's see here. I knew there was another question here somewhere. Beatmaster, we need Ant-Man now to fix QLED displays. UJ, here's a great question. Will emissive quantum dot technology be eclipsed by micro LED technology? Wow, that's a great question, UJ. I answered it a little bit in the chat room, but I'll expand upon it here. Emissive quantum dot technology, the difference that I explained in the chat room is that with emissive quantum dot technology, you can scale the size of the screen and keep the same resolution. So you could have a 50-inch screen or a 60-inch screen or a 70-inch screen, and they could all have 4K or 8K resolution because you can scale the size of the subpixels. With micro LED, you can't. The size of the pixels and what's called the pixel pitch, the distance from one pixel to the next, is fixed. It can't be changed. In like an emissive quantum dot display or an OLED or an LCD, all of those, the pixel pitch changes. The distance from one pixel to the next, it changes as you change the screen size. With micro LED, it doesn't. It stays the same. You can have different screen sizes with micro LED, but they will be different resolutions. So if you, and as I've described before, micro LED displays consist of what are called tiles or modules. So it's maybe a foot square, roughly, of a tile, and you put a bunch of them together to form the entire screen. And the goal is for the seams between the tiles to be invisible. And for the most part, they are, except under very rare conditions. But for the most part, it's fine. So you put together a screen of a certain size, and it has a resolution of 1080p or 2K roughly. Put a bigger screen out there, and it's 4K. Put a bigger screen still, and it's 8K. It all depends upon the pixel pitch. So, as I said in my my chat room note, I think there's room for both of those technologies. The micro LED, like Samsung's The Wall, is going to be more expensive for a while, I think. Well, emissive QD will be pretty expensive when it first comes out, no doubt. But it will fall in price, as micro LED will too, I'm sure. And I must say that emissive quantum dots, in terms of a TV, we're probably not going to see for, I'd think, 5 years. That's my guess. And by that time, who knows where micro LED will be. As to which one is better, I think micro LED is going to be brighter even than emissive quantum dot, but it'll all be very interesting.
All right, Scotty, have a great week.
Thanks, you too.
And
see you next weekend.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
You bet.
Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Oh, yeah, time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography. We've got smartphones. We've got smartwatches. We got all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo. That's my phone number if you have a question, a comment, a suggestion. If you'd like to talk high tech, I'm here for you, man. I'm here for you. So Apple had a big event in New York, oddly enough. They built this beautiful campus with its very own dedicated theater, the Steve Jobs Theater in Cupertino, California. Everybody's there. And for unknown reasons, even though, you know, they own it, there's no one else using it, they decided they were going to rent the Brooklyn Academy of Music last week and have an event there. They wanted to emphasize, I think, creativity because, well, that was what the invitation said, and see what's in the making. And it turns out the announcements were about, I don't know, creative devices. I don't know. They're all just computers to me. Is one computer more creative than another? I don't think so. If you listened to me when I said last week, don't buy an iPad or a Mac, wait and see what they do. Well, you were rewarded because they, in fact, announced new iPads and new Macs. And, in fact, announced exactly, there's really no surprise in these announcements, exactly what we thought they would announce. There were a few questions. Are they really going to replace the Lightning port with a Type-C port on the new iPads? Yes, they did. And there's no Lightning port at all now. Are they really going to take the headphone jack out? I didn't believe that possible because there's no justification for that. You know, I don't, is lie too strong a word? They represented that having a headphone jack and an iPhone just took too much space up. Too much space. We had, Phil Schiller, their chief of marketing, said, the courage to delete the headphone jack a couple of years ago in the iPhone. Courage. And the engineering excuse that everybody said, well, they needed the space, they've put other things in there. Well, you can't say that they needed the space in an iPad. These things are massive. There's plenty of room inside. There's no conceivable logic, no compelling reason to get rid of a very useful thing, the headphone jack. They still put headphone jacks in their new computers. Their new MacBook Air has a headphone jack. So it just baffles me. And it really, I hate to say it, but looks like Apple's just got one goal in mind, which is to sell more wireless headphones you don't need or more $10 dongles you don't want. All right, fine. I am glad they went to Type-C. That's going to be great because you can do a lot with Type-C. It's an industry standard, so that means there will likely be other Type-C devices. Well, we'll see. I mean, Apple has to put drivers on there, and they may not. But we may see other Type-C devices you can use with that port. So that's good news. And these are bezel-less design, so they did get rid of the home button on the iPad, the new iPads. There's still old iPads out there, but I imagine we're all moving in this direction. And Face ID that works in every orientation, so you don't have to turn your iPad upright just to unlock it. The MacBook Air was updated, which is great. It needed to be updated. It's completely unclear, given the update, why they couldn't do this 2 years ago. Apple, in their mysterious ways, it's not a super fast processor. It's a processor no one had seen before from Intel. It's an i5 dual-core processor running at 1.6 gigahertz, 7 watts TDP. So it's a low-power processor. Generally, that means not so fast. And it seems it's going to be faster than the old MacBook Air, but that's not much. That's not saying much. It'll be a little faster than the MacBook, which is really not saying much. That thing's a pig. Ironically, it'll probably be much slower than the iPad. And truthfully, there's the story, I think, of the event. If you read between the lines, they started with the new MacBook Air and the new Mac Mini, which hadn't been updated in 4 years. And for people like me who love Macintosh, this was a little gratifying. Oh, good, Apple's going to still make Macs. And then they moved on to the insanely more powerful iPads, the Pros. The processors in these, the A12 Bionics, A12X Bionic chips, are much more powerful, frankly, than you even need right now in an iPad. There's a lot of what we call headroom, a lot of room to grow. They have a neural network processor in there for machine learning. They're beasts, and in fact, some benchmarks are showing the new iPad Pros are actually faster than some MacBook Pros. They're that fast. It's very clear to me at this point that the future of computing from Apple's point of view is these iPads. They don't really care that much about the Mac. They could have released these Macintosh updates years ago. They didn't. They're reluctantly continuing to put out Macs, but ultimately, in the next couple of years, it's pretty clear Apple's going to, abandon Intel entirely, stop using Intel chips, start using their own chips of their own design. They're faster, they're better, they control them. And as Apple pointed out, they're the only mass-market computer out there with a 7-nanometer chip. That's Intel can't even make a 10-nanometer chip, let alone a 7-nanometer chip. That's how small the process is, and the smaller the better, more efficient, more power. So this is, they're really leapfrogging the industry. And I think it's very clear that this is the future. They also showed off AutoCAD with the desktop engine in it. So basically desktop AutoCAD on an iPad. Adobe's already announced desktop Photoshop on an iPad. We're rapidly moving to an era where the iPad is Apple's primary computer because iOS is its most successful operating system, and ultimately all the money for Apple goes into the comes from the iPhone. So it is not much to say in terms of this event. It's stuff we all expected. I bought one of each just to review them and have them for you, and we'll talk about it next week. They come on Wednesday. That's pretty cool. It's rare that Apple's been able to say, okay, you can pre-order it today and you'll get it by Wednesday. That's a quick turnaround. That just shows that they've been cranking these things out at the factory for some time, and they're ready. They're ready. The pallets are already in the United States being distributed to stores as we speak. But that's good. People don't, it means you get your device soon. 8888 Ask Leo if you have a question or you want to talk about the new Mac stuff. I'll have more to say next week. I love Macs. I'm a big Mac fan, but frankly, even I am starting to look at using an iPad and probably the bigger one because it's got the same size screen as the MacBook Air almost as my primary computing device. It's thinner, it's lighter, and it's more powerful. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought that? 8888 Ask Leo. Back to the phones we go. Just a moment. Don't forget the website. Everything I say is there. TechGuyLabs.com. Your calls next. Yeah, I don't know if people even buy desktops anymore, do they? I'm gonna do a little experiment. I'm gonna see if I can get by with the iPad Pro and a keyboard. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888. Ask Leo the phone number. Line 3, Chris, Lakewood, California. Hello, Chris.
Oh,
sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. We keep you on hold for an hour just to see if we can get you to fall asleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. No problem. It's worth the wait.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm going to take you up to speak better. I have a question. I have Windows Defender, and when I first got this computer, I had WebRoot on it. They recommended that Best Buy recommended having another antivirus.
You know why Best Buy recommends that? WebRoot paid them. So every
really?
Yeah, they get a commission. Every computer these days comes with additional antivirus software, trialware. In every case, that's a paid advertisement. You do not need it.
Wow. Fantastic. Windows Defender does the job then.
Yeah, so I'll give you a couple of data points that are really great. First of all, it comes with all Windows 10 computers. And if you have an older Windows computer, you can download what it used to be called Security Essentials. I recently saw, and I wish I could remember the source, I'll find it, tests of all the antiviruses. Windows Defender got 100%. Others did as well, but the point is it did as well as the best that's out there and better than most. So that's one thing. It's as good as any antivirus. No antivirus is going to keep you from doing stupid things. You know that. The most important thing you can do, antivirus for me and most security experts, is way down on the list of things to do to protect yourself. Number one, update regularly. On anything that goes online, that means your computer, your browser, your operating system, everything that you use that goes online should be updated constantly, because that's the number one thing. Number two, you have to be careful about installing software from strangers, clicking links. You got to be opening email attachments, especially from people who pretend to be your friends. You got to be, your behavior will override any antivirus. But the antivirus is, it's nice. It's number 4 or 5 on the list, but it's nice to have that in the background. The good news is it comes with Windows. The other thing that really is exciting, it's the first antivirus, Microsoft announced that this week, to do something called sandboxing. So one of the things I've always mentioned is a problem with antiviruses. Anything you put on your computer opens a hole in your computer potentially, right? It could have a security flaw. So I always say, this is an important rule, is only install software you absolutely need. Don't just and a lot of us geeks just, let me try that, I'll put that on there. And you end up having hundreds of programs you don't use on there, each one of them potentially opening a door to bad guys. The worst offenders on this, are antiviruses, because unlike a regular program, in order to do their job, they have to hook deep into the operating system. They're a highway for hackers if there's ever a flaw. And some of the biggest names in antiviruses have had massive flaws that have let bad guys in. So you're installing something that actually makes you less safe. But what Windows Defenders, what Microsoft just started doing because of this, and they say, this has never happened to us, but we understand that's the potential. Antivirus runs at a low level in an operating system, so we're going to sandbox Windows Defender. That means it's isolated from the rest of the system, and if something should get into it, it can't get out of it into the rest of the system. So it's the only antivirus to date. I bet you everybody starts doing this, but to date, it's the only antivirus that eliminates that other problem, which is that antiviruses open holes on your system. So you're good. You don't need any other antivirus on your system. You're fine.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You would have the answer.
No, I'm glad you asked. And it's important to remember when you get a new computer that it's going to have, Microsoft doesn't like it either, by the way, because they feel like they're putting out a product and everybody's junking it up with other trialware. So they offer something called Windows Signature Pcs, and not many manufacturers have signed up for this, but it's basically pure Windows with no trialware. And it may even cost a little more because every company, Dell, HP, every company makes money on every computer sold by selling basically ads, trialware of antivirus software and other stuff. You'll notice this when you install, you set up your new PC. we call it, I always call it, I don't want to use the word, junkware. How about that? I'll call it junkware. Usually I say something a little stronger. And the first thing I do when I get a new computer, if it's got junkware on there, is uninstall all those trials. I get rid of all of them. Microsoft puts a few of its own on still, Candy Crush Soda and stuff. Uninstall all that stuff. Get rid of everything. Again, any program you have on your system is a potential opening in your system to bad guys. Don't do it. And so you've got Defender. It's there. You can't get rid of it. It works. It's a good antivirus. I don't think you really need an antivirus, but at least you've got something. And now with the sandboxing, I think they've eliminated what could have been a problem with antiviruses. So I guess my bottom line is this: recommended. And don't play Candy Crush Soda, whatever you do. Oh, okay, go ahead. Who am I to say? I'm playing Pokemon Go even while we're talking. It's a big event. It's a Gengar Day. Line 2, Dale, Palmdale, California. Hello, Dale.
Hi, Dale. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Question. I have an older iPad.
Okay.
And I do my banking on there and all that stuff. And my son-in-law is saying that I need to buy a new iPad because the older ones are not secure. And I'm going, well, they were secure before that, because I tried doing the update, and the update is saying that I'm up to date. There's just no other ones.
Yeah, what version? Are you in iOS 11?
Actually, I don't know, but I know that
he's right in the sense that you want to get updates. In this case, though, iPads are absolutely secure. Nothing to worry about. Don't install weirdo software, but you're not. And Apple protects you. You can't install anything except from the Apple Store. They screen everything there. No, you're far more secure on an iPad than you'd be on a desktop or a laptop computer. Far more. Fear not. You don't need a new iPad. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. On PCs, on desktops, that's what happens. Is like Microsoft says, well, you're on Windows 7. We're not going to support that anymore. But it's not the same on iPads at all because they're inherently secure. So there's nothing to patch, really. I think you're good. Well, how old is the iPad? Dale, are you still there?
It's pretty old. I mean, it was before they came out with the Mac Mini, and it was I bought the top of the line with all the RAM and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And when I did, I thought that it would be good for a long time.
It is. I think you're fine for banking and stuff like that. And you don't install a lot of other software on there, right?
I don't install nothing on my
Good man.
iPad. I got my iPad from my wife, and she put a lot of games on there. But I don't know how to get them off of there. I'd prefer to just have everything off.
So
of there.
here's what you do. It's really easy. You press and hold the icon, any icon, till it goes jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. And then all the icons will have little X's in the corner. And anything you don't want, you just tap the X, it'll go away.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's a good idea because if you just use Safari on that for banking, you're golden. Now, eventually...
That's basically what I do.
Yeah.
I do banking. I mean, I'll do my surfing and stuff like that. But at the same time, I mean, my son-in-law was saying, you're putting yourself at risk because of the fact that you're using an old iPad.
No.
I'm sitting there going, well,
No.
It was secure before they stopped updating me. I don't know.
Well, the updates fix it, but the iPad is a different matter entirely. It's inherently secure. As long as you're not doing risky things, you stay at home when you're using it on your own network, right?
Right. I never. Well, I might take it with me to my son-in-law's house.
That's
but
fine.
I'm on an Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm not.
You're
out
fine.
there in the open.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I was wondering is, okay, one of the things that I was actually looking forward to is the new update is because of that Augment TV.
Yeah.
And if you got the older version of Windows, of iOS, it doesn't work.
No, you can't do a lot of the things. So it's certainly a perfectly fine time to get a new iPad.
That's until they just came out with the new one.
Well, and there's Black Friday sales down to $250 for an iPad that will be faster than the super-duper one you bought 5 years ago.
Right.
So there's if you can afford a few $100, it wouldn't hurt. And if you want a nice one, yeah, they've just released brand new ones. The bigger screen, much more attractive. And I do think that the face recognition is more secure. Nobody else is going to get to use it. I mean, the fingerprint's pretty darn... You have a fingerprint reader on yours. It's pretty darn secure.
Right.
I don't think there's any issue at all with security on an iPad, period.
Okay, because that was where I had myself worried, because I do a lot of my banking and all that kind of stuff, and I'm sitting there going...
No, but you could treat yourself to a new one. I mean, I don't see any reason not to.
Yeah, it just kind of irks me that I spend all this money on this iPad.
Yeah.
And then they stop supporting you, and it's really not that old. I mean, it is old.
Well, it's 4 or 5 years old. If you got it when the Mac Mini came out, that's 4 years ago. So it's 4 or 5 years old. My wife, I got this one for her, and she just loved it. And then they came out with the Mac Mini. She goes, well, I kind of like to have the smaller one. I go, I got you the bigger one because I figured you'd like the bigger. Oh, the iPad Mini. Oh, you got her the mini iPad. Ah, yeah.
Yeah, the iPad Mini.
Yeah. I know. You're fine. You could use that till the cows come home, because there's just no good way to exploit an iPad. I've not seen any exploits in the wild at all.
Okay, well then I'm really happy about that. Yeah, but the Augment TV was one of the reasons.
If you want augmented reality, I don't think it's worth spending any money on. But if you want to play with it, you will need a newer iPad, and that's.
Well, it was not necessarily for me. It was for my grandkids.
Oh, they might like it.
That they would get a kick out of it.
They will. They'd love it. So now's a good time. They just released the new ones. I'm a bad guy to ask. I buy everything. Our podcast today brought to you by the good folks at Rocket Mortgage. We love Rocket Mortgage. They've been a big supporter of Twit for a couple of years now. And I think it's appropriate because Rocket Mortgage is created by Quicken Loans, the #1 lender in the country. They, by the way, I just want to point out, became the #1 lender in the country during the time we've been telling you about them. Might have something to do with 8 years running of J.D. Power #1 customer satisfaction awards. Maybe it had to do with all these fine ads and all of you fine people who are using Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage is great for us. It's a completely online mortgage approval process. Quicken Loans became #1 because they're very customer focused. They think about the customer experience. And they knew, and I could have told them, but they figured it out. I think because they're very techie anyway. They're kind of techie people. That we geeks don't want to have to go to a bank to get a home loan. We don't want to fill out a long application. And worst of all, we don't have to want to go through our paperwork to find old bank statements and pay stubs and then fax it into the bank. We just don't want to do that. Why do that when you've got the internet? So they created Rocket Mortgage, an entirely online mortgage approval process. I love that. If you go right now to rocketmortgage.com/techguy, you can get the whole thing started. No trip to the bank. The application is like a few questions. There's actually a 3-step process. It's so cool. Let me talk about it. They call it the power buying process. Step 1, you answer a few questions. They'll check your credit. They'll tell you what you qualify for. You choose the term, the down payment, the rate. And then they give you pre-qualified approval. That all happens in a matter of minutes. So fast you could do it at an open house. I mean, it's that fast. Then the second step kicks in. This is the part where they verify the income, assets, and credit. And they do this in less than 24 hours. They're very quick, and usually with no work on your part, because they have relationships with all the banks and everything. They can get all the information they need. And then they give you verified approval. Now, that's awesome. Within a day, you get a letter. You can show to the realtor. You can show to the seller. You could show them on your phone, I'm verified. That means you're basically, you have the strength of a cash buyer. You're good for it. No contingency here. You got the loan. That makes it, if you've ever bought a house, especially nowadays, it is absolutely a seller's market. You'll have, when we bought our house 5 years ago, there's 6 or 7 offers at the same time. And the seller gets to sit there and go, well, I don't like that one. And the first thing they'll say is, well, is there a cash buyer in here or somebody who's got the loan? Is there? I don't throw out all the ones that's contingent on them getting a loan, and then you're right there in that pile, like a cash buyer. Step 3 is really for today, because one of the things that has changed over the last few years, interest rates have notched up. Right, they're going up. The Fed's raising them. That means all the indexes are going up. The home loan rates are going up. And yeah, they only go up, 1/8 of a point or 1/4 of a point. But that's a lot of money on a 30-year loan. That could be tens of thousands of dollars. And here's the thing. It puts pressure on you to buy a house fast. Like, the rates could go up tomorrow, honey. We better buy this one. But that's not the way to buy a house. You want to have the leisure to find the right place. This is where your family's going to live. It's the biggest expenditure you'll ever make. So what they've done, step 3, they call it, and it's all new and it's exclusive to Rocket Mortgage, Rate Shield Approval. They lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. So you get the loan and your rate, and that's it. It's not going to go up. It could go down. If rates go down, your rate will go down, but they can't go up no matter what happens. Fed could raise interest. Doesn't matter. That's your rate for the next 90 days. So you have plenty of time. There's no pressure. Find the right house. It's just exactly what you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender, people who are really focused on your experience, customer experience. I love that. It's easy to get started. You go to rocketmortgage.com/techguy. Rate Shield approval is only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. I heard an ad on the radio the other day with these disclaimers, and they sped it all up so you could understand it. That's crazy. I'm going to read it at a normal rate. I could do it faster. You want to see how fast? No. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records, equal housing lender. See, you want to hear that, right? Licensed in all 50 states, and MLS consumeraccess.org number 3030. Now, you don't have to remember that. You remember this, though. rocketmortgage.com/techguy. rocketmortgage.com/techguy. We thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for making the Tech Guy podcast possible. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy, 8888 Ask Leo. Great question from Dale right before the break. I want to elaborate a little bit on that because we always are talking about flaws, security issues. There's a new I was talking with my wife about this yesterday. There's a new flaw in the Intel chips. And the problem is those of us who talk about security issues, and even worse, like your evening news, when they talk about security issues, don't really differentiate between the ones you really should worry about and ones that are completely theoretical. So in theory, there are things people can do to you on an iPad. But in theory, in practice, even an older iPad, you're completely safe. Now, if you want to, there's also gradations in your need for security. If you are a spy, or, if you're in a nation where they execute dissidents for saying bad things about the government, then your need for security might be a little higher than Dale, who just wants to do a little banking there in Palmdale. No one's going after Dale's iPad. On the other hand, if you're a target, if you're living in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, you might want to have, some additional security. I figure if you're that kind of person, you're clever enough to go out and look. There's plenty of places that you find information about hardening your computing. That's what they call it, hardening it against bad guys. I tell you what, I would take an iPad to DEF CON, the big hacker conference in Las Vegas. And most of the people I know who go to DEF CON, they won't bring their laptop. They won't bring an Android phone, but they will bring an iPhone. I talked to the guy who created PGP, Pretty Good Privacy, the email encryption standard. That's still the standard 20 years after. Phil Zimmerman. I said, what do you use? He said, I use an iPhone. They're secure. iPhone, iPad's pretty much the same thing. In fact, an iPad's even safer. You're fine. Even an older iPad, even with no updates, you're fine. You actually still are probably getting security updates. You're just not getting the big iOS updates. That's fine. Don't worry about it. You're protected. This new I'm talking with my wife about software and about flaws and why there's so many security flaws. And a lot of the reason the kind of the everyday flaws exist is because, frankly, programmers are sloppy, and they're using languages that let them be sloppy, programming languages that let them be sloppy, let them make dumb mistakes, like, accessing memory that doesn't exist, things like that. And, you might have heard, if you read up on these security flaws, terms like buffer underrun and buffer overrun, things like that. These are kind of the garden variety security flaws that are caused by sloppy programming that is everywhere. because we just don't use good tools. We can fix that, and I think we'll fix that using better languages, better tooling, and programmers getting smarter about security. Then there's a whole different category of bugs, and this is the bug that was just discovered in Intel chips that use hyper-threading, which is Intel's term for multiple execution threads on a single chip. And a lot of chips, I think all chips do this. And the exploit, the bug, is essentially it's hard to describe. It's a timing flaw that allows a malevolent process. So you're running on your processor two different things at the same time. That's called hyper-threading, right? And you might have multiple core processors. But this particular flaw has to do with hyper-threading. So one processor, one chip doing two different things at the same time. One thing is maybe logging into your bank, the safe thing, the secure thing you don't want anybody to see. The other thing is a bad guy who somehow, we don't know how, got on your system. Maybe you downloaded some bad software, something like that. So the bad guy has the second thread. This is mind-boggling. And only, by the way, graduate students in the highest level computer science colleges in the world are figuring this how to do this. He can, based on looking at how long it takes the first thread to do things, he can't look into the thread and see your stuff, but he can deduce what your passwords are based on timing. It's black magic. It's so hard to do. No one else has done it. It's a completely theoretical bug. Now, Intel's going to fix it, just like it fixed Spectre and Meltdown. But remember, we talked about Spectre and Meltdown, similar flaws, months ago. No one has yet exploited these. Everybody's working on the garden variety. The programmer did something stupid bug. Nobody can figure out how to use these timing bugs. These are very sophisticated attacks. Now, you know who is probably trying to work out how to do that? The Israelis, the Chinese, the Russians, and the Americans. And let's throw in Britain too, and probably the French and Germans. Governments and their government hackers are probably working on ways to do this, but they're very targeted. They're going after spies. They're not trying to get Dale's bank account numbers. Please, I promise you. It's not worth it. It's a lot of effort. So if you're a bad guy, you're going to get the low-hanging fruit. You're not going after an iPad way too hard. You're going after Windows. There's 1.5 billion Windows users. There's 100 million iOS users. Who are you going to go after? You're going to go after the 1.5 billion Windows users, most of them who haven't patched their system in a decade, who are just sitting ducks. That's easier. So, Dale, you've already done the most important thing, which is not to do your banking on a Windows computer. You're doing it on your iPad. You're golden. Unless, maybe Dale's a spy. I don't know. Maybe he is. I don't know. So I think we need to, as tech journalists, do a better job of saying, look, you don't have to. In fact, I wouldn't, truthfully, we probably shouldn't even report these things like this Intel timing attack, because, frankly, it's never going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And just because some smart whiz kids at Carnegie Mellon have figured it out, they've got a name for it. It's called port smash. By the way, that's another thing. If you are a researcher and you're really smart and you figured out a clever exploit, you got to give it a good name. Meltdown, Spectre, Heartbleed. You got to get a good name for it. Port smash. It's what they call a side channel attack. It is never going to happen to you. It was discovered at the Tampere University of Technology in Finland. Don't worry, you're safe. I gotta come up with a coding scheme. Is this a 4-star attack or a no-star attack? This one you don't have to worry about. But if you're I think you get a PhD for that, right? Solar Designer, who is apparently a security specialist and hacker Alexander Pesliak, said it's top-notch research. The port contention side channel has long been obvious and a fully expected property. Port smash. I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't worry about it. And if you are worried about it because you're a spy, just Google hardening and whatever computer you're using. And there are ways to make it less vulnerable. 8888. Ask Leo. All this stuff, I'll put links. In fact, I'll put a link to the article that describes this port smash in our show notes. That's free. It's open to all week long. TechGuyLabs.com. There's no sign up. You can read everything we talk about. We even put audio and video for the shows after the fact up there. TechGuyLabs.com. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. More calls right after this, Tovarish. Stay here, please. I'm watching Jack Ryan, which is the Amazon Prime show, which I'm quite enjoying. It's like Tom Clancy. And the bad guys are using a video game to chat, right? And Lisa and I are watching it. I said, yeah. This is common, or used to be common, until everybody knew. If I know they do it, then everybody knows that they do it. It's not encrypted or anything. They're just going into games like World of Warcraft and chatting and then, talking together. And, but I said, if, more likely you're going to use a fully encrypted end-to-end messaging program like Signal nowadays. Why would you even bother? Well, nobody will ever see us here in World of Warcraft. Moose and Squirrel use World of Warcraft. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy, 8888. Ask Leo. Talking about spies, great story from Yahoo News yesterday. We're finally kind of starting to understand a intelligence catastrophe that has happened to the CIA some years ago. Between 2009 and 2013, dozens of CIA agents all over the world were killed, caught, captured by nations. Two dozen apparently were killed in China because of a failure in the CIA communications system. If you have a spy network, you've got to find a way to safely and securely communicate with your spies in country. There's maybe you've heard of the numbers stations. You can tune these in if you're a ham or you've got a shortwave radio. There are frequencies where they're just saying numbers. 24, 15, 13. Widely thought to be some form of crypto communication. Well, apparently the CIA, oh man, was using the public internet websites to communicate with their moles in China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. And the network was uncovered using a Google search. Apparently, the Iranians found one mole, interrogated him, and found out about this site in 2009 that the CIA was using to control the agent. This was after, you may remember, we put a virus in the centrifuges in the Iranian nuclear enrichment facilities, which broke the centrifuges and then leaked out and caused havoc all over the world to a lot of people. The Iranians were so mad about that, they went on a mole hunt. They found a mole, interrogated him. He said, here's the website they're using. Then they used Google to search for similar websites, found them all, and the entire CIA worldwide network of spies was essentially rolled up. I'll put a link in the show notes to this story. It's devastating. From around 2009 to 2013, the story says the U.S. intelligence community experienced crippling intelligence failures related to the secret, I'll put that in air quotes, internet-based communications system. The previously unreported global problem, we're learning about it now, originated in Iran and spiderwebbed to other countries and was left unrepaired. They continued to use the system despite warnings about what was happening until more than 24 sources died in China in 2011 and 2012 as a result. it became then, of course, a very important matter for the CIA to get these people, to exfiltrate these people, get them out of country, to change their communication system. They were using the public internet, and the Iranians used Google to find the sites. You just Google them. They hit on the right string of advanced search terms to locate other secret CIA websites. So, spy plus Iran plus nuclear plus return. From there, Iranian intelligence tracked who was visiting these sites and from where, and began to unravel the wider CIA network. U.S. intelligence officials were flabbergasted that Iran managed to extirpate entire CIA spy work using a technique one official described as rudimentary, something found in basic how-to books. Happened in China, too. Happened around the world. Wow. So, again, this underscores what I said earlier on the show. If you put it on the internet, consider it public. Unbelievable. Search for moose and squirrel on Google. You'll find them. I shouldn't laugh because it was, of course, devastating, and many people died many spies died as a result. Shirley is in Irvine. Hi, Shirley. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
Thanks for calling, Shirley. Thanks for hanging on.
Yeah. And I have a question on the iPad and MacBook Air.
That's the subject of the day today, I think. Yes.
Yeah, when I watched when I paying the YouTube.
Yeah.
Some channel I pay is the screen when I exit to the full screen.
Yeah.
The screen the picture show is crooked,
It's crooked?
In kind, it's not normal picture, So
and this happens on your iPad and your MacBook?
Yeah.
It's crooked?
Yeah, but the picture, when I make a full screen.
Not when it's in the little window, but anytime you go full screen. And when you say crooked, what do you mean? It's tilted? What crooked how?
In kind. And the picture is just like you and the operator lady next to each other. But sometimes the ladies are in front of you and you are, your left hand, it just is not
do you have
right angle straight, the picture seems to wave, some wave is moving, it's not straight. Right angle.
Boy, I don't know why that would be. I've never seen such a thing. And it's interesting it's happening on two devices, so I can't say, well, that's a bug in something, because it's happening on both your MacBook and it doesn't happen to you have your friends, they don't have the same problem. You've never seen it?
No. And I have a iPhone as well, but in the iPhone I don't see
it looks normal. Huh.
Yeah. But I don't know how to describe that picture,
Yeah, I can't see it. So it's not at right angles. So but you say that there's
when you say right now you are in front of microwave, the micro speaker straight, but the picture show up you are 45 degrees, something like that.
It's tilted 45 degrees.
Yeah, you have just some kind of wind blow you.
That is not right.
Yeah, but this seems after update to the.
Well, that's what I would suggest. A couple of things. All computers you need to reboot every once in a while. I even have on my Samsung Note, there's a setting in the settings to reboot it every night. It must be really need to be restarted. So the first thing to try is restarting your iPad and Macintosh. Now with the iPad, it's hard because you have to press and hold the on-off button for a while until you see that thing that says slide to turn off. Then you're really turning it off. It's not just turning the screen off. You want to turn the whole thing off. And sometimes you even want to do a full reset, which is to press the home button and the on-off button and hold them both together until you see the Apple logo.
Okay.
So that's a full reset, and see if that fixes it. If it doesn't, then certainly updating to the latest version would be a good idea.
Yeah, because the iPad, I don't think I can updating the update one because it's a iPad 2.
Oh, it's really old. Yeah.
Yeah, they said they are not...
no more updates for that.
Yeah, even for the banking, they don't accept that anymore.
Yeah, I would definitely update the Mac, though. You got me, Shirley. I have no idea. We're going to keep investigating. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. What the heck is going on? Yeah, iPad 2 is way, way back in time at iOS 9, says Scooter X. So, I have never heard of such a thing. I don't know what that is.
This is Michael Medved. I'm here with Mike Stahl from Health Markets.
Huh. Chat room, you got any notion? What could that be? Boris, call Boris, Natasha. That's bizarre. I've never heard of tilted video, and it's happening on both her iPad and her MacBook. I don't understand that at all. Maybe time for a new iPad. I don't know. You got me. Oh, maybe it's like half rotated, do you think? Like it's trying to rotate? That wouldn't do it on the MacBook though. But maybe I misunderstood when she said MacBook. Bosch is good. I like Bosch. Auto rotates locked, but locked at 45 degrees? It's a great mystery. Shirley has come up with a great mystery for us. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, and digital photography. We got smartphones, we got smartwatches, we got all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. If you have a question, a comment, a suggestion, I'd love to talk to you. Maybe you know what's going on with Shirley's iPad. That would help too. 8888 Ask Leo. Dan in Cleveland, Ohio is next. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Leo. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Well, it's great to have you, and I hope you'll call back anytime.
Oh, great. I've got lots of questions, so I'm sure.
Okay.
But today I'm having an issue with, well, not today, but it's been a while. I purchased an Asus AC3200, like you recommended
Good.
A while back.
You like it?
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's
the one that looks like a spider because it's got so many antennas on it. Yeah.
Sure does. And I found out the whole file sharing aspect of it. Got it linked up to my Roku. My daughter loves it because she watches all the Harry Potter movies.
Nice.
But the issue I'm having is that whenever I try and copy a DVD on my computer, I have to disconnect the drive, bring it down here, plug it in, and then copy the files over. I must be missing something.
Oh, you want to copy it over the network?
Well, no, I want to be able to transfer it from my computer once everything is done.
But the network is a lot slower than physically connecting it.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
But it just saves me a step, you know? I
understand. So just to explain, he's talking about a Asus router, the AC3200. And so what you're saying is it won't copy at all, or just it takes a really long time?
No, the issue is that once everything is ready to go, I can't find the drive on the router from my computer, and I can't, move them over there.
I see. So you have a drive hooked up to the router.
Correct.
Got it. And you want to use it. It's basically a poor man's network attached storage.
Yes.
Yeah, not the ideal way to do it, but that's why they put a port on there on the back. You can see it otherwise, though. Is that correct? Or can you never see it?
I can see it. I believe I can open them from my computer, the files themselves, but I can't take anything from my computer and place it into the drive that's connected to the router.
I see. So it's read-only.
Yes, even though I believe I've gone through and made all the right settings.
Yeah. It's so... unfortunately, I'm not really familiar with how file sharing works on this Asus router. I'm not sure if it's using, for instance, Windows' own built-in file sharing or SMB or what it's doing. Mm-hmm. So you just have to make sure you've configured it properly. And it sounds like, if it's configured as a read-only drive and you want it to be a read-write drive. So apparently Scooter X says it uses SMB, which is pretty common. In fact, it's probably the most common way to do this. Mm-hmm. How to set up. So we have a link, which I'll put in the show notes at techguylabs.com, to an Asus FAQ, how to set up this to work with Windows sharing. I'm just looking at the screens on the Asus. I'm almost certain there's a setting here that would, if you're just setting it up for being a media server, which I suspect that's what's turned on, that would be read only. You want to set it up for file sharing. So I'm sure I'll put this link in the show notes. You're going to have to work through this. It looks like it has a variety. It actually is pretty sophisticated. You can support NTFS, sparse file support. You add the account for Samba. You're going to have to do a login for it. You're able to, okay. And now I'm looking, and as you scroll down, there are settings for read, write, read, or no access, and you probably are going to want to look at that. So we'll put in the show notes a link where you can search for an Asus FAQ number 1011279, 1011279, how to set up media services and a Samba share. And one of the check boxes in here is whether it's read only or read write. And you want to, my guess is it sounds like it's read only. Either that or you only have media sharing turned on. You need file sharing turned on to copy it. Yeah, and you'll be able to copy it, but I will add that it will be very slow. But you should be able to copy it. It's going to be much faster to do it by what we call sneakernet, carrying it downstairs. Always the easiest way. Line 3, Kevin, Missoula, Montana. Hello, Kevin.
Well, good afternoon, Leo. I'm doing great, and I know you're doing great.
Mm-hmm. I sure am.
I got a couple questions to ask you real quick. Like, I'm an avid gardener, and I'm out here when I'm gardening listening to your show all the time.
How nice.
Yeah. And I'm currently using a Motorola S11 Bluetooth wrap around the neck. I don't know if you've seen those or
not familiar, but go ahead.
Okay, it's a couple of years old.
Yeah.
I confiscated from the significant other, so anyway.
she doesn't need it anymore, huh? No. Oh, I've seen. Actually, you know what? I have had a pair of these. I know what these are. Yeah, they're for music, right?
Well, right, but I'm using on a Samsung cell phone too to talk to you right now.
Yeah,
so I love it.
Yeah, you can use them for both. Yeah.
The problem is that they keep twisting and I keep cracking the end of it. So I'm looking for something to where I can totally be wireless, but also I've seen and have people talk to me about the rechargeable ones that you just put in either ear.
Yeah,
and
there are lots of ways to do this. Yeah. In fact,
you should know what would work for people like us that want to be, gardening and hands-free.
One of the reasons these Motorola's are nice is because they have a lot of space for battery. You can go for hours with this thing. It's got a band that goes around the back of your neck, and then it goes over your ear, and it has headphones that stick in your ear. But increasingly, we're seeing similar devices that are either just standalone, like Apple's Air pods, which just stick in your ear and have no wires, and I like those a lot, but they have much less battery life. And as a result, what they do is they provide you with a case that has a bigger battery, and you take the AirPods out of your ears, put them in the case, and it charges them, and then you charge the case overnight or at some other time. And they charge fairly fast. You might, though, look at something like Jabra has similar kind of around the back of the neck headphones, but instead of a hard piece that goes over your ear, it's just a wire, like the Jabra Elite headphones. It's just a wire that goes in the earbuds. So as you turn your head, it's much more flexible. The reason I like the back strap for a couple of reasons. One, it's of course, it's harder to lose them. The AirPods fall out of your ear. Good luck finding them in the begonias there. They stay on your neck even if they fall out of your ear. But, of course, the other reason is that there's plenty of room for a battery in that neck piece behind you. They get 18 hours of battery life, for example, on the Jabra Elites. So there are absolutely headphones like this. They're Bluetooth, allow you to go out in the garden, listen to the radio show, but they have a little bit more flexible earbuds. I'd look at the Jabra Elite. They're not very expensive, about $70. Good Bluetooth. They work with your phone, and they will work with audio as well. Hey, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. We'll be back. More of your calls coming up. 8888 Ask Leo. Website, techguylabs.com. I'll put a link to these Jabras on the website, but there are a lot of good choices now. Bluetooth headphones are really taking off. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I like the AirPods, but I think the problem with, especially if you're gardening, they're just going to fall out. But they certainly are the most. When I'm on a phone call, I often use these because they're very flexible, right? You can move your hand, and they don't fall out very easily. But I think the idea of having a wire back here where you can have more battery, and if they fall out, they just dangle here, is probably more practical. I have a pair of, what was the name? I can't remember. But it's a wire. But I wear those in the gym. They're nice. But it does go all the way around the back. And they have a little more room for charging, too. Can't remember the name of this. The Vava. Vava Move. And these are cheap. These are what I wear in the gym. And you get 9 hours on these. And they do aptX, which is really good. If you have a device that supports that, that's the high quality stereo. These are $33. I'll put a link in the show notes to these. I just keep them in the gym, and they're charging all the time. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. Chat room has come up with about half a dozen, maybe more, Bluetooth headphones that would be suitable for gardening. I remember that I bought a pair of Vava Moves. I just like the name. For $33. I use these in the gym, VAVAMOOV. And they support aptX, which is a more modern Bluetooth audio codec that gives you really, I think, a lot better music. But you need an aptX device to stream to them. 9 hours playback, and they're waterproof. Plus, I like this. They have a wire that goes all the way around your neck, just a wire, so it's very flexible. And then the base of the earbuds are aluminum and magnetic. So you snap them together, and then it's like a little necklace. Sound quality is decent, certainly enough for audio. We'll put a lot of links, though, to a lot of these and many other kinds, because the chat room is mentioning the Beats X. The anchors are cheap. If you have an aptX device, the problem is most devices don't do aptX yet. That's the future of Bluetooth music. If you have an aptX device, get an aptX pair of aptX Bluetooth earbuds. You'll get much better results. Anker Soundcore, somebody's mentioning, the ANKER, they're good. Anker's a great brand and usually very inexpensive. So there are a lot of good choices out there. This is something the chat room apparently knows quite a bit about. Joe, Tampa, Florida is next. Hi, Joe. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Good afternoon, Leo. Thank you very much
afternoon.
for taking my call.
Thanks for calling, Joe.
You're very welcome. I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
I've got on your recommendation, I've got a Motorola G5 Plus, which I love.
Very nice.
The phone is great. The only issue I have is volume level.
Yeah.
Do you know of any fixes or anything like that? This mostly happens on the speakerphone, whether you're listening on the internet or on the telephone itself. Mostly on the phone, I have to say. You're coming through loud and clear here, and I wouldn't be on the phone if everything sounded like what you're sending this way as far as
and unfortunately, you can't control how loud the guy on the other end is. And it is the case that different phones have different loudness of speakers. In fact, the new Pixel Android phones are so loud that people are complaining that they're buzzing, they're vibrating. In fact, there was a YouTube video. Somebody took the Pixel 3, put some kernels of rice, uncooked rice on the back of it, and took a YouTube video of the rice dancing while he was listening to music. I don't think that's a flaw. I think that's fine. They're very loud, but the G5 maybe not so loud, unfortunately, and there's no way to really fix that. You've turned them up all the way. It's really how they're built. It's what they do, and I have to say, it looks like both Google and Apple and even Samsung are paying attention to this. This obviously is a complaint because all three of them tout loud speakers on their phones. Now I'm looking at Scooter X, our chat moderator, has posted something from the Lenovo forums. Lenovo makes these Motorola's, and somebody has posted low volume during calls, and it just seems like a complaint that everybody seems to have. And I don't know if there's a fix. Here's what one person suggests. Go into the phone menu. There's a settings in the phone app. There's a settings, and you could select calls and uncheck voice privacy. So I guess what they think of as voice privacy is be very, very quiet so no one can hear.
Okay.
So apparently by deactivating the default, which is voice privacy, that'll help the volume on the phone. You can also go into accessibility and turn on the hearing aid compatibility box, and apparently that will also allow you to turn the volume up a little louder. So these are both from the Motorola support forum. So thank you, Scooter X, for passing those along.
I'll look into that because the first one you mentioned, I've already been down the road with it. It didn't make any difference.
Yeah. You turned off voice privacy, huh? Yeah. I've never seen that setting. It just maybe it's made that way, I guess, is the point. Sometimes these phones just don't have that much volume.
Yeah, I mean, I figured I'd want to be at least, they should manufacture them where they were overdriven. You can always have the option of turning it down or blowing the speaker up on the phone, basically.
Right. Yeah, you want to break the speaker? Now, here's another one. It says you can hold the volume, press it all the way up to 100%, and then simultaneously select OK when you get that excessive volume message. I don't know if you've seen that, because they're trying to protect your ears, and you will get another 25% of volume after you do that. So that might be another thing to do.
Let me look into that. I didn't know about that at all.
Yeah, that's new to me. Yeah.
All righty, sir.
Thanks for calling. I appreciate it. I said I appreciate it. It's just sometimes that's the way it is. In fact, we even get calls. We used to have a big problem with that. I don't know. That seems to have been fixed, but with really low callers coming in, and I sometimes couldn't hear them. Maybe that's why we sound so good. We turned up the volume. Chester, Bellflower, California. Hi, Chester.
Hi, Leo. How you doing?
I am well. How are you?
Great. Love the show.
Thank you.
I was going to ask you, I've got I'm not sure how old it is, a Samsung computer. It still has Windows 7.
Okay.
But my son ran some kind of scan on it. It says it has like 39 different viruses and malware. I know. I don't know what's with it.
Well, is your son a teenager?
No.
No. Okay. Because kids often will get these. The other thing is some scanners will over-report or misreport in an attempt to sell you services. So here's what I would do. There are a couple of very good online antivirus scanners that I would maybe run on it just to get a second opinion. ESET, which is, I think, a very good antivirus company, has an online scanner. Trend Micro does as well. ESET is ESET.com, and unless they've stopped doing it, they used to have an online scanner on there. If you go to antivirus.com, that's the Trend Micro. And these aren't as complete or as sophisticated as a on-disk scanner, but it'll give you a second opinion. And a lot of times, for instance, antivirus scanners will flag things like cookies tracking cookies as flaws. And that's not right. So those really aren't flaws. So what you're looking for is an online antivirus scanner. You can even Google it and get some additional points of view. Now, if you still come up with more than one, or actually more than 0 viruses, you probably should do something about it. The best thing to do is wipe the drive and start all over. That'll get rid of everything. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. The Gizwiz coming up in about 10. Talk about some gizmo or gadget. A reminder, next show will be an hour earlier. Well, it won't. It won't be if you set your clocks back normally. The problem is we have listeners all over the world, and there's no longer a standard date on which people change the clocks. Of course, some people don't change them at all. We will be falling back tonight in parts of the U.S., so make the adjustment you need to make. I don't know what that's going to be. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Line 2, Sophia in Pasadena. Hello, Sophia.
Hi, Leo.
Welcome. Thanks for hanging on. What can I do for you?
Okay, I'm Uber and Lyft driver, and I have an iPhone SE.
Yep.
And I noticed when I go to my car and I'm on my Bluetooth that my notification don't make any sound anymore, even that all the settings are turned on. How can I fix that?
Yeah, it's making a sound in your Bluetooth is probably what it's making a sound in. Are you hearing something in your Bluetooth?
No.
You're not hearing anything at all?
No.
Neither in the Bluetooth or the... all right, let me think about that. It's so what Apple has done is so complicated because they have separated the ring sound from the ringing phone, the media sound from playing back video, and the notification sound into 3 different volume controls. Even though when you do your volume, it only shows 1. You just have to do the volume at the right time. So I suspect there's a setting in Bluetooth as to where the notification sounds go. I'm going to go look at notifications and see if I can see that. Yeah, you want to hear your notifications, obviously, so you know if there's somebody calling for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see anywhere where you can say it's different for Bluetooth. They made it so complicated, and unfortunately, there's no place where, unless you're watching. If you're watching a video, for instance, and you press the volume up button, it'll say media volume. If you're just holding the phone, it'll say volume, and if the phone's ringing, it'll say. It's not confusing. The answer is I have no idea why you're not hearing it. When you're not on Bluetooth, it works fine.
Yes.
You hear what you want to hear when you hear it. Now, there's a physical switch on the side. Make sure that's another thing. That mutes some sounds, most sounds, I think. So make sure that physical switch is towards you, is up. That means you'll hear everything. Back away from you means it's off. I am not sure. To be honest, I'm not going to be much help, Sophia. You pair your Bluetooth, and you're no longer hearing the notifications. Anybody have any on an iPhone SE? Any idea of that? I'm looking at my Bluetooth settings. I don't see anywhere you can change that. On some phones, there'll be a setting that says, whether or not to play notification sounds through your phone or through your speakers. I wonder if... I know when I pair with my car, I often have the choice of having notifications come through the phone or come through the car speakers. I wonder if that's the issue. Anybody have any suggestions? I'd love to hear it. I'm looking all through the settings on iPhone. This is a case where by making it easier for people, eliminating all the complicated settings, they've made it really more obscure. On an Android device, the newer Android devices with Android Oreo, when you press a volume up button, you actually can see a choice of different volume up on different things. Media volume, call volume, ring volume, and alarm volume are all separate. As they should be. And the volume controls are all separate, as they should be. I think it's better to expose that than to do what Apple does, which is basically not say anything at all. Just volume is volume, and it's context sensitive. So, I think they're hiding too much, shall we say. Vibrate on ring, vibrate on silent, ringer and alerts. That is a separate volume. So if you go into your settings, maybe this will do it for you, Sophia. And in settings, there's a sounds, and in mine, on iOS 12, it says sounds and haptics. And you'll see a volume control for ringer and alerts, and you can turn that up or down. So I guess those are tied together. And then, maybe this is it. Underneath that, it says change with buttons. I have that turned off. The volume of ringer and alerts will not be affected by the volume buttons, but you can have it be set by the volume buttons if you want. The reason I don't have that is because I want to be able to turn up and down media volume or call volume without affecting the kind of standard ringer and alerts volume. So maybe that's the solution. Go into the settings, sounds and haptics. See if that helps. I don't know if it will. Apple, again, as always, cryptic. They're cryptic. Going on to line 1, Bill in Anaheim, California. Hello, Bill.
Hi. Say hi.
Hi. Hi. Is that who's that on there with you?
That was my wife and my dog.
Your wife and your dog are telling you to say hi.
Oh, my wife.
Oh, just your wife. What can I do for you, Bill?
Well, I have a situation where I've got MS.
Okay.
And I can't use my hands.
Yep.
So I'm looking for a computer or something of that nature that can operate off voice only.
Yeah, and there are such things, but in general, what I recommend if you have a disability is to find somebody, a state agency. Are you working with anybody at a hospital or a state agency to help you with this kind of stuff?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, because this is what they call this is accessibility, and accessibility experts are really good at matching your particular needs, because everybody's needs are different, with the technology that's out there. So some people, it ranges from everything to a pointing stick and a puffer. Remember Stephen Hawking, who barely had any movement at all, was able to use a computer mostly just by moving his eyes. So it really ranges in capabilities, and you're almost always better to get somebody who's an expert in this to configure it for you. The other advantage of this is a lot of these accessibility technologies are really pricey, and so getting an accessibility expert to help to intercede and maybe even get the insurance company to pony up will make a big difference. Most general computers have some voice control, but they're kind of limited. For instance, both Windows and Macintoshes now allow you, and Chromebooks too, allow you to say the trigger word. For Windows, it's Cortana. For Mac, it's Siri. For Chromebooks, it's Google. To say the trigger word, and they're always listening. You could turn the always listening feature on. But if you've ever used Siri or Google Assistant, I'm sure you have, or Amazon's Echo, you know that their capabilities at that point are kind of limited. You can say, okay, who, open an app, but you can't really get the who to do anything in the app. You're then expected to use your hands. So I think that's, I think the general purpose computers are not ideal. If you go to the nationalmssociety.org, they have a page dedicated to this, Living Well with MS, and they talk about technology and voice commands, smartphone apps, additional resources. And what you really want to find, I think, is somebody who can be an ombudsman for you and help you find the right technology, acquire it, and then show you how to use it. No general purpose computer is going to really suit, I think. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. This, I think this was I don't remember. They're very generic, the clear cases I use. They're not particularly, I think it was I could tell you. You know what? I searched my Amazon. I'll give you a link directly to it. It's good. It's a nice case. All my phones have these little rubber cases because I like to be able to see the phone. And frankly, on the front, all phones look like the same black slab of glass. So I need something to distinguish it, and often it's the back. So I'll tell you what I got. Something wrong? Oh, you're checking GizWiz?
We'll be on Skype 2.
Skype 2. You're going to have to do that for me. So let me search all orders for case. I feel like was Mozo. Tozo. This is here, I'll put the link in here for you. This is for the iPhone XR, but they make cases for all the phones. That's the Tozo. But, they're all the same. Clear, soft TPU. I've done ESR. That's what the Galaxy Note is an ESR case. That's a little different because they have a little texturing inside, which I'm not sure I'm crazy about. And then this is the Pixel 3 is a Ringke, Ringke. For the XS, I use the Torras, Torras. So they're all the same. You shouldn't pay more than $10 for any of them. Let me just show you the list of cases on my website. You have a $1 case? $1 is cheaper than anything I got. This is let's see. Oh, wait a minute, I searched the wrong thing. Orders, search orders, case. So here's all the different cases. That's actually for my daughter. The Tozo, the ESR, the Ringke, the Torras. Don't get the Mosiso MacBook thing. That paint peeled on that right away. The Spigen, I've bought Spigen before. I like that. That was for the S9. So you can see I have no brand loyalty. I just get whatever comes up on Amazon. Those are the most recent. Hey, Dickie D.
Hey, Leo. How you doing, pal?
I'm good. What kind of phone case do you use?
You know what? I wanted to have I was going to have Dennis make it, and then I did a search. I wanted a phone that we shoot the videos with to look like a clipboard.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I found this company that does them, and they'll customize it and do it for any phone, and it was, I think, $20.
Ah.
So it's kind of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
My iPhone XS says screensavers on the back of it.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, we'll be with you in a moment.
Perfect.
Caseology, I've used those before. I've used them all. So we got, have you ever heard of Hopsy?
Hopsy?
This is my gadget of the week.
Oh!
Well, they're going to be a sponsor, so I probably shouldn't. It's a beer tap at home. And you get little different beers.
Oh, wow.
It's a little draft beer system. Looks like Krups make them, and then they sell different beers. So I have Black Hammer Jaded River Torp, Coronado Guava Islander IPA Torp, Hermitage Citra Single Hop IPA, Strike Brewing Shoeless Joe Brown. So I'm set.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm going to have to start drinking beer.
Yeah.
They do ciders, and they also do. Thank you. And I also wish they'd sent me, because they also do kombucha. Well, I think Damien, our new musical director, has figured out that Dick DeBartolo is a man about town in his white pants and his Tony Manero hair. Whether you're a brother or whether you're a lover, you're staying alive. Staying alive.
Yeah.
Dick DeBartolo's here, our gizmo wizard. We call him the Giz Wiz. Hello, Dickie D.
Leo, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
You know, I did a mad album of disco satires.
Did you?
With a guy named Norm Blagman, and the takeoff on this was called "Barely Alive."
Barely alive. Barely alive.
Barely alive. Yeah. Yep.
I miss those. They used to bind the little vinyl records into Mad Magazine.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
The only one I remember, and it's probably because I was 12 years old at the time, was one called It's a Gas, where it's basically...
Oh, my gosh, yes.
It was a little vinyl, you know, it's like a floppy little vinyl record bound in there, and I had a record player. This is how long ago this was, and you put it on there, and you usually have to put a little weight on it, because the thing is...
yes, it would always say, please put a 25-cent piece on it.
Weight on it.
Yes.
And then all it was people burping. It would play some music.
I was one of those people.
What? You were the burp? You were a burper?
I was a burper.
The chorus? The burper's chorus?
Yes, we actually did disco It's a Gas.
Did you really?
Yes, we did. And there were two of us, and someone in the control room said, oh, you need a burp? Just buy some soda that's warm. And if you drink warm tonic water, I think we were drinking.
Boogie! And here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Direct from Mad Magazine, the disco version of It's a Gas. Is this you too? Oh, man! I can't take you anywhere. Wow.
Yeah, well, if next time we have dinner, I'll do it for you live.
Promise?
No.
Do you have a gizmo for? I'm going to leave this music going in the background. This is the best thing ever. All right.
I do. So there's a show. It's just a single-day show called Kid and Family Tech Expo, and it was last week. And I found this neat thing. The company is called Curiscope, and it's the virtual IT shirt. Okay.
Okay. You better explain this.
Yes, Leo. So you put the shirt on, and then you download the app, and you hold your phone or your iPad or whatever your electronic device is up to the shirt, and it shows you your insides.
What?
It's really, really neat.
That's
and kids
wild.
will like it because it says,
it's an X-ray.
See your insides in gross detail.
Oh, man. This is what in the back of the magazine, I don't think Matt ever had these, but in the back of comic books, the X-ray specs.
Yes, exactly. Except this is a little more accurate. I mean, I said to the guy...
Accurate? I bought those X-ray specs. You couldn't see anything.
No. Yeah.
That was the biggest ripoff of... That was when I learned at a young age that life was not fair.
Right. I believe what they did was there's a piece of a feather in there so that there was some liney things.
It was fuzzy.
They were passing off as an X-ray.
I thought I'd see something much more interesting, and I did not.
You did not. No. Exactly. No, this is obviously not your body, so you can't write it off on Medicare. Medicare will not pay for it.
Do not use for diagnosis. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I said to the guy, I hope this is my insides because you'll save me a trip to the hospital. And then you can tap on different organs, and there's a lecture person who can tell you about that.
Oh, wow.
If you want, you can have the heart rate be your heart rate.
What?
By going into the heart rate app, putting your finger over the lens of your camera, it will pick up your heart rate and then let the heart the app beat at the sound.
This is augmented reality. That's what this is.
Yes, it
right?
is. Actually, the guy said if you have VR glasses, you can go in and do a 360 tour.
Now, if you move around, will it move around? I mean, will your bones move around and stuff?
You know what? I didn't see that.
You can put it on a teddy bear, apparently. I didn't know teddy bears had organs.
Yes. Also, you can wear the shirt yourself and just put it in selfie mode.
Oh.
And then look at your own.
This is cool.
Inside.
I like this.
This is great.
Yeah.
And it's $29.95.
I like it even more now.
You're going to like it even more because for some reason I checked before the show, And from yesterday to today, it's down to $24 on Amazon.
Wow. Okay, so it should be. It's just a T-shirt.
Yeah, it's just a T-shirt.
But the app is app free that you'd use it?
The app is free, and the guys who did it, I met the inventor of it. It's a young guy. I think they spent a lot of money, getting it up and running. So he deserves his 24.
Everybody buy one right now. You go to gizwiz.biz. That's Dick's website, gizwiz.biz. Click the button that says the GizWiz visits the tech guy, and you can get a link and find out all about the beautiful skeleton T-shirt, the Virtuality. That's pretty cool. I really like it. Cool. And it's Curiscope, C-U-R-I, like curiosity, C-U-R-I-S-C-O-P. By the way, while you're at Dick's site, gizwiz.biz, click the link that says what the heck is it? Because we have a brand newy one. So now it can be told. Do you have any vague idea really what that is, Leo? So it's it looks like kind of like one of those clickers that goes. You got it. Is it?
Yes, it was a dog or any pet, or actually they used to use them in school too. When I click it once, everybody's standing.
Yes.
When I click it twice, everybody sit down.
I used to have these when I was a kid. I loved these things. Wow. I got it. I should have entered.
Yeah.
I could have won a Mad magazine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can enter the new contest.
They used this, somebody mentioned, in Jurassic World to train the raptors. A lot of good that did. And I remember it from a TV show called Goliath, where William Hurt, who was a very nasty brute of a lawyer, used it. Whenever he got angry, he'd click at you.
Oh, my gosh.
It's very annoying.
Oh, my gosh.
So now we have a new one, and boy, this one's a mystery. It's a close-up picture of a gizmo or a gadget. If you can identify it, you can enter the drawing for one of 6 Mad magazines for the right answer, 12 for the best wrong answer, and Dick signs them all, and he's the sole one and only judge. Gizwiz.biz. Gizwiz.tv for Dick's great Gizmo podcast that he does with Chad Johnson. Well, thank you, Dickie D.
Okay, buddy. I'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week. We're out of time. Now, Michael Cozio has been our musical director. He is going to be around for another week or two, but then he's moving on. He's going to move on. I guess, this is what happens to all my favorite people. They get promoted. You're going to do Coast to Coast, right?
Yep, doing Coast to Coast on the weekend.
Look for, if all of a sudden Weekend Coast to Coast gets really good music, you'll know why. But don't worry, Damien's going to take over in the next couple of weeks. He'll be our new musical director. Welcome, Damien. Thanks to Kim Schaffer. She's the one answering the phones. And thanks to all of you for being here. We do this show every weekend, and I hope you will stop by next time so I can help you with your computers. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Have a great Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.